Robert De Niro, there's something about being a star where you think your opinion's more important than anybody else's, and you can go give a press conference, and he obviously has been very vocal from 2016 that he hates Trump for whatever reason. Maybe they have some personal thing.
You think Trump ever threw a punch himself or took one? This guy who ran and hid in the White House bunker when there were protesters outside? No way.
Now he's like holding press conferences. Now everyone's heckling him everywhere he goes.
That's so bad.
Like instead of just being this cranky old liberal, now you're this guy that is yelling at other people that are Trump supporters, and they're yelling at you. Like you've opened yourself up to this nonsense. Like, why?
Trying to be gentlemen in this world. The Democrats, you are gangsters. You are gangsters.
Can't just be he's a bully, he's a piece of shit, I hate him. Why is he talking about this publicly? If you're gonna come out and say that you have a really deep-seated hatred for one of the two people running for president, if you're gonna express yourself about it and alienate 50% of the country, which it seems like it is, you're gonna have to do better than that. You should have some specific things. Like he did some real estate deals with people in New York. Let me tell you what he did to fucking blow over.
I would love to hear it.
He did this and that.
Robert De Niro's 29-year-old child, Aaron, has come out as transgender. When the press asked her for comment, she said, "You talking to they, them?" Thank you. Nothing I like more on a Sunday than some old guy spewing F-bombs.
This guy should not be president, period.
And when you say that, folks on Fox come after you. I remember the Tonys when he got up there and cursed. A lot of of you. Okay, well, you know, this is cable, so it's not an FCC violation, but it is still a Sunday morning.
That was Bobby De Niro promoting his new movie, Grumpy Old Man 7, More Strained Peas. And De Niro, how stupid is he without a script? Isn't that amazing? I used to think, wow, that guy's brilliant. But once you take the words away from him, he is so stupid. Then when he goes, impeachment will make America great again, and everybody's, how intellectually deprived he is. He's a coke-addled simpleton, you know, without a script. It is hysterical.
Does he have a big coke problem?
No, I just read that article that you sent me about the last nights of John Belushi and how De Niro was there and just basically partied with him and then split. And it's just like, now I just think of him as a really stupid guy.
The real punchline here, as Rogan and Patrick Bet-David so expertly pointed out, is De Niro's foray into political activism. Yes, because what the world desperately needs right now is another out-of-touch multimillionaire, standing in front of a velvet curtain, lecturing everyone else about oppression and systemic inequality. You know, right before he hops into his chauffeur-driven limo, heads back to his second or third yacht, and tweets about the urgency of climate change from a private phone made by exploited, underpaid workers halfway across the globe. Bravo, Bobby! Nothing screams revolution quite like sipping a $500 bottle of vintage wine, while simultaneously scolding the working middle class for not understanding economic nuance. And if you thought that was the peak of comedic irony, buckle up, because the man is now clinging to political relevance, like it's the last cannoli at a very sad, very sparsely attended mafia wedding. Remember when he used to meticulously transform himself into complex, unforgettable characters so convincingly you'd forget his actual face? Now, all he seems to play is himself, yelling, ranting, and desperately trying to stay awake long enough to finish a sentence on cue without accidentally insulting an entire demographic. If there were an Oscar for least self-aware use of a public platform, Robert De Niro would be a 10-time undisputed winner, still thanking Martin Scorsese in his rambling acceptance speech.
Oh, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Now, Kurt's convinced that Robert De Niro's on some kind of Epstein list or some kind of thing like that, and then he's afraid that if Trump does get power, he's going to expose him, and he is actually going to come at him.
Of course Kurt thinks that.
That's what Kurt thinks that.
Kurt thinks that about every fucking thing that happens in the world.
I think Robert De Niro's just got Trump derangement syndrome.
I think he's old, too. There's a thing about old men.
And
they want to yell at everybody.
And he's completely... Did you see when he went and gave that speech outside of the trial? That was bizarre.
Told him that was a good idea?
And then he starts yelling at regular people.
Joe Rogan, who generally roasts his guests, and public figures, between discussions of elk meat recipes and wild alien abduction stories, couldn't help but take a massive jab. And really, how could he possibly resist? De Niro has practically put himself on a silver spit, marinated himself in pure, unadulterated smugness. and then rotated himself slowly under the scorching flames of public irrelevance. When a guy once famous for his brooding subtlety becomes the loudest, angriest dude in any room, it's not a character transformation, it's a cry for help, or at least a very confusing career choice. Rogan didn't even have to say much. The look of sheer, unadulterated confusion on his face whenever De Niro tries to sound profound about anything post-1999 is enough comedic fuel to power a small city for a week. And then there's Greg Gutfeld, whose entire brand revolves around gleeful mockery. And boy, oh boy, did De Niro serve himself up like a 5-course banquet of boomer cringe. It's like watching someone wear their own embarrassing meme on a t-shirt, proudly. Gutfeld took one look at De Niro's latest public meltdown and probably thought, oh great, Hollywood's senior intern just clocked in for another shift of incoherent rambling. And he's not entirely wrong. De Niro, these days, often acts like he's applying for the unpaid job of most self-important man in America. Except no one's actually hiring, and the only pay is the sound of millions of people collectively rolling their eyes.
Do you think that's starting to affect Hollywood a little bit, to where now if you look at the most successful people, it is the realest people? You know, people might not even like, say, a Donald Trump, but people are gravitated because they think, hey man, this is him, this is real.
I think the best thing for people in Hollywood that are entrenched in that world is to shut the fuck up. Because as soon as they start talking, people as soon as Robert De Niro starts talking, I'm like, Jesus, get that fucking microphone away from him so I can enjoy Taxi Driver.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't want to hear, I love De Niro. I love those mob movies. It's like,
I don't want to hear him that he's a moron. I don't want to hear him talking about politics and about Trump supporters, and just shut the fuck up, man.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't think this through. Like, this is, and he's getting yelled at. He's doing an outside press conference. Like, Robert, you're 80 years old. Don't ruin this thing.
De Niro has become that uncle at Thanksgiving dinner who simply won't shut up about politics, except he never leaves the dinner table, and he's got access to late-night talk shows and national press conferences. He's basically your grandpa's angriest Facebook feed, but with actual Oscars on his mantelpiece. You'd think winning multiple Academy Awards would grant a man a certain degree of peace. Perhaps a quiet retirement filled with artisanal pasta and fond memories. Not Robert De Niro. He's seemingly made it his full-time, unpaid mission to remind everyone that he's still alive by screaming into the void and desperately hoping someone, anyone, claps.
This is what moms call bad language, or what producers call great TV. The plan, get an irrational figure at peak derangement and goad him into snapping. It's like cabaret for the chronically obsessed. It's like when you were a kid and would pull wheelies on Old Man Johnson's front yard. Finally he just cracks, he's holding a spatula, chasing you around in his open robe. That's the De Niro CNN business model in a nutshell. Money for nothing and clicks for free. Of course, the real story is how accusations of Trump's nutty behavior always ends up with the accusers acting nuttier. De Niro calls Trump crazy as he goes crazier.
Some, like the Kurt mentioned in the transcript, even speculate wildly that De Niro is on some kind of Epstein list, and that his fervent anti-Trump rants are fueled by a desperate fear of exposure if Trump regains power. While that's pure, unsubstantiated conjecture, it speaks volumes about the intensity of his Trump derangement syndrome, a condition many, including Joe Rogan, believe he suffers from acutely. I think he's old too, Rogan mused on his podcast. There's a thing about old men, they want to yell at everybody. And De Niro, it seems, is yelling louder than most. Did you see him when he went and gave that speech outside the Trump trial? It was, by all accounts, bizarre. Who on earth told him that was a good idea? He just starts yelling at regular people on the street. You're a gangster. Go fit yourself. It's genuinely crazy to think that this is the guy from Taxi Driver.
Business is just being a real person talking shit.
Yeah.
The professional shit talkers.
Yeah.
You know, having fun, being silly, talking shit about things. And actors are not that. They're weird people, man. And the one thing that's harming them in Hollywood is that they get exposed for being who they really are. And a lot of these people that pretend to be all, you know, clean cut and you find out they're into freaky shit. And, you know, it's like.
And it's easier to expose stuff now because
Here we have De Niro, Robert, or Robert if you're nasty, as some might now quip, who seems to genuinely believe he's been divinely ordained by the spirit of political wisdom and public decency to lecture the masses. Except, the only thing he seems to have mastered recently is the fine art of yelling into a microphone like an angry, confused pigeon on a potent cocktail of meth and moral outrage. Yes, this is the same guy who used to silently, terrifyingly command rooms with a single, intense glance. Now, he apparently needs 3 espresso shots, a full teleprompter, and an echo chamber of agreement just to tell you, with profound indignation, how much he hates whoever happens to be in political office that particular week. As one commentator in the transcript brutally put it, De Niro is a coke-addled simpleton without a script. A harsh jab referencing an article about John Belushi's Last Nights, where De Niro was reportedly present. Whether that's fair or not, it paints a picture of how far his public image has allegedly fallen.
It's no longer down with Trump. It's
It kills me. Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture. And the clenched fists at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute. It's like he found out the restaurant serves Jell-O.
Robert De Niro, once the undisputed gold standard of cinematic grit, the human embodiment of a gritty New York back alley, the actor you couldn't even look at without hearing the faint, menacing echo of "you talking to me," that guy. He's been around the block more times than a seasoned New York City cabbie, starring in movies that didn't just entertain. They shaped entire genres. But somewhere between the iconic intensity of Taxi Driver and the bewildering landscape of the 21st century, this towering Hollywood icon started to morph. Not into a new, compelling character, but into something far more curious, far more loud. He's become, in the eyes of his increasingly vocal critics, the unofficial, unelected mascot of Hollywood's elite meltdown club. The man has seemingly gone from mob boss to mob-sized public embarrassment, and Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld, along with Patrick Bet-David, just finished turning him into the unfortunate punchline of the century, all without even needing to break a sweat. You know it's bad when 2 or even 3 men from completely different media spheres, with vastly different styles, all independently decide to tag team your public persona, like it's WrestleMania for the washed up and woefully unaware. And De Niro, critics like the ones in the transcript are screaming, is so stunningly stupid without a script. It's almost amazing. I used to think, wow, that guy's brilliant, one commentator lamented. But once you take the words away from him, he is so stupid.
Old, and when old people are tired and cranky, they just want everyone to listen to them, and they don't have time to have a calm conversation. And you state out your opinion, I'll state my opinion. Let's see where we have common ground. Hey, get off my lawn! And that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. He's being this old grumpy man that is so lost that he thinks it's a good idea to stand in front of a bunch of people on the street and give a speech on camera about how bad Donald Trump is. With all the shit that's going in the world.
That I know.
All the craziness of the world.
Right now, the guy you're voting for.
Resistance had run out of script. It was just another role without dialogue, so he had to improvise. But I handed to CNN. It got me to watch, and by having it on the 5, it quadrupled their audience. Congrats to Stelter and CNN for that 1 minute. You had a hit. So, Dana, shall I quote Scott Adams?
Oh, yeah, I was thirsty.
Okay.
Right.
He claims that because we've entered a new phase where not liking Trump is just a lifestyle. So you're a lifestyle resistor because when you
don't even have to have a reason.
Yeah. So when he kept saying why, he's just going F him.
It's like when you.
He's like, fuck you, you're a gangster. Go fuck you. Like,
it's crazy that that's the guy
what?
from Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
You know what? Also, I think those guys have no friends. I think the only friends they have are Hollywood phonies. And so you're in this weird world where everybody you talk to is a phony, and you become a phony, and everyone's a phony, and your grasp on reality is very slippery, and your eyes are going.
What if I told you that Robert De Niro, the legendary tough guy of Hollywood, the man whose on-screen scowl could intimidate a hardened mobster, just got verbally body slammed harder than a WWE rookie in their first match. And the unlikely tag team delivering this brutal takedown? None other than podcasting titan Joe Rogan and financial commentator turned cultural critic Patrick Bet-David with a hefty side of Greg Gutfeld's signature snark. Yep, Mr. You Talking to Me? Apparently met two guys with podcasts and absolutely zero chill. One moment, De Niro is on his usual political rant, veins bulging. The next, he's getting roasted like a cheap, overcooked steak on Joe Rogan's metaphorical grill, while Patrick Bet-David calmly brings the receipts, the logic, and that unmistakable smug billionaire grin. How did a cinematic legend allegedly get so thoroughly humbled on the public stage? Buckle up, because this one is wild, and the takedown is more entertaining than most of De Niro's recent movies.